Please, Kennedy, please, don't tell him. It will destroy everything." Her voice cracked like dry wood under pressure. Her lips trembled, her eyes darted across the kitchen like she was searching for an escape. I stood there, frozen with my heart pounding, my hands numb, and my mouth dry. My mother, the woman I had admired all my life, stood before me now not as a pillar, but as a frightened woman hiding behind years of silence. "You're asking me to lie to Dad, the man who raised me," I whispered. My voice barely carried, yet the weight of the words hung heavy between us. "He loves you, Kennedy. He has always loved you," she said quickly, her voice now rising. "This truth, it will ruin us. It will destroy him. Please. Let sleeping dogs lie." But the dogs weren't sleeping anymore. I could feel something in me crumble as I looked into her eyes, the same eyes I inherited, the same eyes that had always looked at me with warmth. Now they were pleading and full of guilt. "When were you ever going to tell me?" I asked. She didn't respond. She sank into a chair and buried her face in her hands. The silence screamed louder than any answer could have. Before we begin today's unforgettable story, welcome to Whispers of Reality, where real-life inspired stories come to life with raw emotion, suspense, and powerful truths. From heartbreaking betrayals to jaw-dropping comebacks, shocking secrets to soul-stirring moments, every story on this channel is a whisper from reality itself. These aren't just stories, they're experiences you'll feel. If you believe in the power of storytelling and love content that moves, inspires, and keeps you coming back for more, make sure to hit that subscribe button, tap the bell icon so you never miss an episode. Like this video, and share it with someone who needs to hear the truth behind today's tale. Now, sit back, open your heart, and let the whispers begin. My name is Kennedy. I am the only child of my parents, and for 25 years, I lived in what I believed was a happy, ordinary home in Mississauga, Ontario. My parents were what most people considered old school. They were firm but fair, family first, God-fearing, routine-loving. My dad was everything a boy could ask for. He never missed a parent-teacher meeting, never let my birthday slip by unnoticed, never forgot to check in before a big exam, a job interview, or just life. Every sports activity I had as a kid and teenager, he drove me to and cheered me on. He was my hero, my dad. And I never questioned it. Not once. Until that day, the stupidest conversation among friends that would change my life forever. It was one of those slow Friday evenings in February. We were holed up at Marvin's, my colleague, watching reruns, laughing, throwing jokes around. Then someone asked, half joking, half tipsy, "Yo, what if one of us did a DNA test and found out our dad isn't our real dad?" Everyone laughed. It was ridiculous. We teased each other. I'd sue my mom, I'd move to Mexico, I'd fake amnesia. I laughed too. But I couldn't sleep that night. Something in me stirred. Not suspicion, no, not at first. Just a strange, cold curiosity. I kept brushing it off, telling myself it was just drunken paranoia. But it wouldn't go away. The more I ignored it, the louder it got. So, like every confused millennial, I turned to Google and searched. Where to get a DNA test in Ontario? A few clicks. A few forms. It was surprisingly easy. I didn't need much, just a saliva sample or a toothbrush. Something that had my dad's DNA. And mine. At first, I couldn't bring myself to go through with it. I told myself I was overthinking. My dad and I looked alike, same ears, same forehead, same temper when the maple leafs lost. But we didn't share blood type. I knew that from a school project in 10th grade. I'd brushed it off then, but now it haunted me. The day I picked up his toothbrush. I stood in the bathroom for 10 minutes, staring at it. I felt like a traitor. Like Judas with the silver in his hands. 3 weeks later, I got the results. Probability of paternity, 0.00%, I read it 3 times before the words made sense. Even then, I wished I had gone blind. My knees gave out. I sat on the bathroom floor, holding the paper like it would change if I stared hard enough. My world cracked open. Everything I believed in, my childhood memories, my father's love, our connection, suddenly felt like a lie. But here's the thing, even in that moment, I didn't feel anger at him. I felt pain. Deep, soul-wrenching pain. But not at him. At her, my mother. How could she? I asked myself repeatedly. For 2 weeks, I didn't speak to anyone. I left messages on read. 8 when I remembered. My friends noticed something was wrong, but I told them I was just stressed about work. Then one night, I couldn't take it anymore. I drove to my parents' house. My mother was alone in the kitchen, sipping tea. My dad wasn't around. I don't even remember how I started. I just remember holding the test in my hand and saying, "Mom, why?" At first, she denied it. Swore I was misled. Told me there could be a lab error. I showed her the printed result, and her face turned pale. That's when she broke. "I didn't plan it that way," she said in the same trembling voice. "I loved your father. I still do. But I made a mistake. A terrible one. It was early in our relationship, and we had a moment that didn't look like we were going to work out. It was just a brief affair. It was stupid, Kennedy. I didn't even know I was pregnant until weeks later. And when I did, he never asked questions. He just accepted you. Loved you. And you let him raise another man's child, Mom." She flinched. "I was going to tell you. Someday. But every time I tried, I saw the way he looked at you, like you were the best thing that ever happened to him. And I couldn't destroy that. But you already did." I left the house that night with a storm raging in my chest. I didn't cry until I got back into my car. Then I screamed. I screamed until my throat burned and my eyes stung and my hands shook against the steering wheel. I didn't know what to do next. All I knew was that my dad deserved the truth, the man who tucked me in when I was sick, who stood in the rain cheering for my soccer games, who called me champ even when I failed. I knew this would break him. But I also knew he had the right to know. It took me 4 days to work up the courage. 4 days of silence. Of unanswered calls and unread messages from my dad. He noticed the distance, of course he did. But he didn't push. That was him. Gentle when it mattered most. I rehearsed the conversation 1,000 times. In the shower. In my bed. While driving. But every version ended with the same image, his face falling, his voice breaking, the light leaving his eyes. I almost didn't go through with it. But then I remembered the way he'd always told me, real love is never built on lies, Kenny. Even if the truth hurts, say it. Own it. He deserved the same honesty he'd taught me to live by. So, on that rainy Wednesday afternoon, I drove to his office. He looked surprised to see me. Kenny, he smiled, rising from behind his desk. Wow. You look like hell. You okay? He asked, concerned. I almost lost it right there. I need to talk to you, I said. My voice didn't sound like mine. He grew serious instantly. Is something wrong at work? What's wrong? No, it's us. I replied, the words heavy in my mouth. His brows furrowed. Us? I nodded. Can we go somewhere private? We drove in silence to a small park where he used to take me fishing when I was younger. The lake was still, and the benches were wet, but we sat anyway. I didn't look at him. He waited for me to open up. I pulled out the folded DNA result from my pocket. My hands trembled as I placed it on his lap. What's this? He asked softly. I need you to read it. He hesitated, but then unfolded the paper. I watched him read. He didn't say anything for what felt like hours. Then he turned to me. Slowly. His eyes wide and lips slightly parted. What does this mean? I swallowed hard. It means, I choked, swallowing the lump stuck on my throat, you're not my biological father. His hands dropped to his lap. The paper slipped from his fingers and landed on the wet ground. I don't understand. I couldn't stop the tears. He blinked once, then twice. Then he looked away. The silence between us stretched, thick and choking. I could hear his breathing, shallow and sharp. He didn't cry, and that somehow made it worse. I'm so sorry, Dad, I said, finally. He didn't look at me. You knew before coming here? He asked quietly. I nodded. How long? About 3 weeks, I replied. A bitter laugh escaped him. 3 weeks. He stood up suddenly, pacing. I stayed seated, watching the man I'd always called my hero unravel. I had never seen him look small before. Never seen his shoulders sag like that. All these years, he muttered. I held you in the delivery room. I cut the cord. I rocked you to sleep every damn night. You were mine. You were my son. I am your son, I said quickly, standing up too. He turned to me. Don't say that. His voice cracked. I loved you, Kennedy. Like my own. More than my own. I sacrificed for you. I worked 3 jobs. I missed promotions so I could be at your games. He stuttered. I would have taken a bullet for you. Tears finally streamed down his cheeks. I stepped forward, but he held up a hand to stop me. I can't. I just can't, he turned away again. My chest burned with regret. I didn't come here to hurt him. I came here because I loved him too much to let him live a lie. After a long while, he spoke again, barely a whisper. Why did she do this to me? I had no answer. He didn't go home that night. Or the next. By the 3rd day, my mother called me in tears, asking where he was. I didn't know. Or maybe I did, but I respected his space. When he finally called, it was just one sentence. Can you meet me at the hotel on Bristol Avenue? That's where he stayed for 3 days. I went immediately. He looked tired. The circles under his eyes told me he hadn't slept much. But he let me in. We sat again. Quietly. This time, the weight between us was different, not shock, but something deeper. Maybe grief. I'm leaving, he said finally. I figured, I replied. He sighed. I don't know what else to do. You don't have to explain. He nodded slowly. I can't look at her. Not now. Maybe not ever. I looked down. But I had to see you one more time, he said. I raised my eyes to meet his. I have one question, I said, voice trembling. Do you still want to be my dad? He stared at me. The silence that followed was the longest 5 seconds of my life. Then he stepped forward and pulled me into the tightest, most painful hug I'd ever received. You will always be my son, he whispered. I broke. The dam in my chest shattered. I clung to him like a child, sobbing into his shirt, the fabric soaked with grief and love and 25 years of unspoken truth. In that moment, I knew what I had to do. I'm coming with you, I said. He pulled back, stunned. What? He asked. I'm coming with you, I repeated. Kennedy, you don't have to. No, I said, firmly this time. You're my father. You've always been. Nothing changes that. 3 days later, I packed a few of my things and moved them into the small apartment he had rented. We didn't talk much that first week. We coexisted like two wounded animals licking our own wounds in quiet corners. But every so often, something familiar would peek through, like when he teased me for how much cereal I ate, or when I fixed the leaky faucet and he said, "Didn't think you'd been paying attention all those years." Each moment was a stitch, mending something invisible between us. The worst part wasn't the silence. It was the in-between moments. The ones where I'd catch him staring at old photos on his phone, or the look in his eyes when the phone rang and it was Mom. He never picked up. Not once. I didn't either. One evening, I walked into the living room and found him sitting on the couch, holding something in his hands. It was a baby onesie. Faded yellow. A tiny blue elephant stitched on the chest. What is that? I asked. I brought you home from the hospital in this, he replied. You kept that? I asked. He nodded. My throat tightened. I know it doesn't matter, he said quietly. The DNA. The paper. The facts. But still, sometimes, it feels like I've lost something I never actually had. I sat beside him. You didn't lose anything, I said. You raised me. You shaped me. You are my father, no matter what a test says. He looked at me, eyes tired but soft. You really believe that? I do. And I meant it. Every word. A few days later, we made dinner together, just pasta and salad. We ate on the couch and watched old sitcoms we used to watch when I was a kid. We even laughed. That night, as I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, I realized something. I didn't move in out of pity. I didn't leave my mother out of spite. I chose him. The man who never missed a moment. The man who believed in me even when I didn't. The man who stayed. And now, I would stay too. That night, I drafted a message. Just one sentence. Hi, my name is Kennedy. I believe we may be biologically related. Would you be open to talking? I didn't send it immediately, not yet. But it was there, waiting. Like the truth. And for now, that was enough. It took me 4 days to press send. 4 days of opening that message, rereading it, editing it, then closing my laptop again. I told myself I wasn't afraid, that I just needed time to think. But deep down, I was terrified. Terrified of rejection. Of regret. Of replacing the truth I already had with something that might hurt even more. But one evening, as I stood by the window watching the sky darken over the city, I whispered to myself, "Just do it." And I clicked send. He replied the next morning. His message was short and polite. "Hello, Kennedy. This message caught me completely off guard. If what you say is true, then we definitely need to talk. Please let me know how you prefer to proceed." My hands were trembling as I read it. I don't know what I expected, maybe a denial. Anger. Silence. Instead, he sounded calm. I waited 2 hours before writing back. I suggested we meet somewhere public, and he agreed. We chose a small coffee shop in downtown Kitchener. The day came fast. I didn't eat or speak much. My dad noticed. "You don't have to go," he said gently. "I know," I replied. "But I'll drive you if you want," he offered. I nodded and said a thank you. We didn't talk much on the ride there. But when he pulled up outside the cafe, he touched my arm. "Look at me," he said. I turned to face him. "No matter what happens in there, you don't owe him anything. He didn't raise you. He didn't hold you when you cried, or teach you how to ride a bike, or show up to every parent-teacher night. That was me." "I know," I whispered, choking back emotion. "You're my son," he said. "Whatever happens in there doesn't change that." I stepped out of the car before I cried. The coffee shop smelled like cinnamon and roasted beans. It was quiet. Almost empty. I scanned the room, and then I saw him. Sitting by the window, wearing a navy blue jacket. Nervously stirring a coffee that looked untouched. I walked over. His eyes met mine, and he stood. Tall. Gray at the temples. Strong jawline. A version of me if time and life moved faster. "Kennedy?" he asked. I nodded. He offered his hand. I shook it. We sat. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. He kept looking at me, not like he recognized me, but like he was trying to. "Thank you for reaching out," he finally said. I nodded. "Thank you for responding." He took a breath. "I don't know what to say. This is the last thing I expected." "Same here," I said. He smiled faintly. "You look like me." "I figured," I replied. Then silence again. I could feel the tension sitting between us like a third person. He leaned forward. "Do you know how this happened?" he asked. "My mom hasn't told me much." He nodded. "Her name is..." He mentioned my mom's name. "Yes." He let out a sigh, part regret, part recognition. It was brief. It wasn't serious. At least, I didn't think it was. I didn't even know she was pregnant. "She never told you?" "Never." I studied his face. There was no hint of deceit. No sign of a rehearsed story. Just confusion. And maybe a bit of sadness. "What do you do?" I asked, needing to fill the silence. "I am in finance. Mid-level firm. Nothing glamorous. Married, no kids." My chest tightened a little at that. I wasn't sure why. "You?" he asked. "Graphic designer." He smiled. "Creative." "That's not from me," he said. I smiled too. That's from my dad. He nodded, slowly, quietly. The conversation wasn't magical. It didn't feel like a movie. There were no tears or grand gestures. Just two people trying to make sense of something they never asked for. But when I stood to leave, he said something that stayed with me. I don't expect anything from you. But if you ever want to talk again, I'm here. I nodded and I left. The days that followed were heavier than I expected. Not loud or dramatic. Just heavy, like walking through fog with a weight on my chest I couldn't name. I didn't tell anyone else I had met him. Not my mom. Not even my closest friend. Just Dad, and even then, only what I felt he needed to know. He didn't press for details. He never did. He just asked one quiet question over dinner the next evening. Do you feel better? I shook my head. I don't know how I feel. He nodded, as though he understood. Maybe he did. It's strange. When you grow up in a lie that feels like truth, the truth doesn't set you free. Not at first. It shatters you. Every photo of us I had in my phone suddenly looked different. Every childhood memory, from Christmas mornings to scraped knees and long road trips, now had a shadow behind it. A voice whispering, you didn't belong the way you thought you did. But I did belong. Because he, my dad, gave me that belonging. One night, I found Dad in the kitchen. I stood in the doorway, watching him. The overhead light flickered slightly. He was hunched over a shelf, wiping it down slowly, like his thoughts were moving too fast to sit still. I met him again today, I said softly. He froze. Then turned to look at me. He asked me what I wanted from him. I continued. And? He asked. I told him I don't know. Dad nodded. Then, you don't owe him anything, Kennedy. I know. But I think I owe myself the chance to understand where I came from. He looked down at the rag in his hand. And what about where you grew up from? I walked in slowly and leaned on the kitchen counter. I'm not replacing you. I could never do that. I know, he said. But I don't know how to carry both truths. The one that raised me, and the one that made me. He finally looked up. His eyes were tired. You don't have to carry them equally. Just honestly. That hit something inside me. Some nights, I dreamt about the man I had just met, my biological father. In those dreams, we were always in silence. Side by side on a bench. At a table. On a walk. But we never spoke. Maybe because, in real life, there were no words that could fix the time lost. There was no roadmap. No definition for what we were now. And that made it harder. Because while I could walk away and choose not to pursue it, a part of me knew I'd always wonder. One afternoon, my mom called. I almost didn't answer. But guilt has a way of making your hands move before your heart catches up. Her voice was cautious. Hi, Kennedy. How are you? I didn't know what to say. There was a long moment of silence. Do you hate me? She asked. I didn't expect that. I swallowed hard. I don't know what I feel. But I know I'm tired of pretending it didn't matter. Kennedy, I loved you, I still do, so much, she said. I know you do. But love doesn't erase the truth. It should walk beside it. We didn't talk for long. After I hung up, I stood by the window for a long time. The sky was dull and overcast, that shade of gray Ontario wore so well in early spring. The wind tapped softly at the glass, like even the weather knew this was a fragile moment. Dad came in and handed me a mug of tea. He didn't say anything. Just sat beside me. I didn't want to hurt her, I said. I know. I didn't want to hurt you. I know that too, he replied. We sipped in silence. Then he turned to me, voice low. You know, there was a night, a few days after you were born, when I stood over your crib and whispered a promise. I looked at him, surprised. I said, I would never let anything happen to you. I will protect you with my life. I couldn't hold back the tears. He didn't either. Because sometimes, silence says everything. And sometimes, the man who stayed is more than the man who started the story. And that brings us to the end of today's story. What are your thoughts? What would you have done in that situation? Drop your thoughts in the comments, we read every single one. Your perspective matters, and we love hearing how these stories connect with you. If this story moved you, inspired you, or even shocked you, don't forget to like the video, hit subscribe, and turn on the bell so you never miss another true life tale from Whispers of Reality. We have more powerful stories coming your way, real stories that deserve to be heard. Until next time, keep listening to the whispers.